Okay, so I'm going to attempt to make this video. I don't feel like it's going to be very long. So, but let me just record it really quick before I go off and do my other things. Um, so I have been chewing on, sounds like QAnon, chewing on this little bits of information that I got a couple of days ago that I'm like, yo, I think this is right. Like, just the timing of, the way that the information is just being poured out in these last days. And having heard it before, it usually takes me like one or two times to hear a couple from other people. I don't know if it's that whole, like, the mouth of two or three witnesses thing, but it literally happens where I hear it one time, I hear it a second time. The first time I hear it, I go, maybe. And then I hear it a second time, and it's like, it's not so much that I consider it, it's just like, I hear it and I'm like, yeah, like it just clicks for me. And so, this thing about the two witnesses. Now, this is going to be some advanced Bible, whatever, for people. Actually, you can't even call it advanced no more because it's just going to be happening. So, this isn't even advanced study anymore. It's the basics because you just look out your window. But, by the time anybody sees this, it's going to be happening. But, like, there's always this talk about the two witnesses. There's these two witnesses that show up in Revelation. And it's, during the end times, Mark of the Beast, the Gentiles trampling the temple for 42 months, and all of this stuff, right? And then there's these two witnesses, and they come and they are in Jerusalem, and they preach the gospel basically in the square, and everyone hates it. But when anyone tries to really stop them, they perform signs and wonders. They do miracles. They fire comes out of their mouths and destroys anyone who whatever. And then they do that for about 3.5 years. Then when their testimony is done, the Lord allows them to be killed. Once their testimony is finished, the people rejoice that the two witnesses are killed, and they're sending gifts to each other. It's a weird thing. They really did not appreciate these two doing the preachings and tormenting them. Basically, it's what it's described as, tormenting them with the information that they should all know by now, anyways. But and then after 3.5 days, they're not buried. They were refused burial, so they're just dead in the town square or whatever for 3 days, 3.5 days. Very important. And then after 3.5 days, they are resurrected. Everybody's freaked out, and then God says, "Come up here," and they're whisked up to heaven. Now, you're not going to get a lot of preaching on this. You're not going to get a lot of sermons on this. This is something that's going to be in your seminary class, in your Bible class that you signed up for, maybe not even. Just because it's just a lot. It's just a lot in a book that's already a lot. And it's just like, okay, so, the people that really are into this stuff are really just have a burden to understand these types of things. They're going to come out with their insights, and they're going to be considered experts immediately because there's literally nobody's got any notes. No one really knows what to make of it. So anybody that can speak credibly on it is listened to, because it's just like, well, I don't know. What do you got? I don't know. So, all of the sort of amateur experts have been saying that the two witnesses are Moses and Elijah. Or no, I've heard Moses and Elijah a lot. And I hear Enoch and Elijah specifically because these are two people that technically never had an actual real death. They were taken away by God. Enoch was taken away by God early, like in Genesis. I mean, he was old, but he just was no more. We didn't hear any more from him. Like God was pleased with him and just took him. And then Elijah also was taken away in a chariot of fire. That's where you get. I don't know if you've ever heard about a chariot of fire. It's a movie, Chariots of Fires, whatever. That's from the Bible. Okay, so these are two people that never technically died. Moses and Elijah is mentioned because they're two heavy hitters. They were on the there's a point in Jesus' ministry where he is transfigured before his disciples, just his like closest three, which are Peter, James, and John, on a mountain, and Moses and Elijah like appear. He appears in white, and it's just a whole thing. It's like a thing, and really not mentioned enough, honestly. But so that happens. So that's been a popular thing for a while. Well, I would say, to be honest, I heard this a while ago, a couple of years ago, that the two witnesses aren't two people, that the two witnesses are the church. And I don't remember them expounding too much on that. And then I heard something recently, maybe a couple of months ago, and it was around the same thing. But I feel like they said that it was the Jewish church. Like it was like, the believers that come out of the Jewish faith in particular. Then I heard it again, like last week. And he was a little bit more succinct in his explanation of it, but he basically was saying the same thing, that it's the church, it's the Jewish church and the Christian church. It's the Jews and the Gentiles. The lampstands, because in the beginning of Revelation, there's a to do about lampstands. The church being the seven churches, the angels over the church, and then the seven lampstands being the churches themselves. And the angels being the lamps. It's a whole thing, right? It's something that John saw in his vision. And then, the seven spirits of God. And when Jesus appears to him, he's not like, hey, John, what's up? It's me, Jesus. He's like Alpha and Omega, the Son of God, the full shebang. Like he can't even stand up. He's like dead. He can't even like deal with it. So, and he gets this vision of lampstands and, the olive tree, like especially the last explanation I heard, was referencing the olive tree, and just all of the textual support for an olive tree always representing Jewish believers, somewhere in the Bible when it's ever mentioned. And so he's saying that the two witnesses are the olive tree, the wild olive tree, which would be, I think, is considered the Gentile church. I seem like to me that the wild olive tree would be the Jewish believers, and then but I guess that's, I don't know. Wild to me signifies like it hasn't been touched at all. It's like an organic, but maybe not. And then there's like the I don't know. I don't remember the terminology for the other the well-established olive tree. It's like, so I guess the wild olive tree is like the offshoot. It would be the Gentile church. And so as he's explaining that, and as I'm just thinking about God, the way that God will tell you something, but he's like hiding it, but he's like not. He's just using different wordage, and it's like he's concealing it, but you wouldn't understand it if he told you point blank anyways. So he's concealing it so that when it does become clear, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like super, super cool. Not because he's just like hiding it from you, like it's just becoming closer and closer. And I'm like, yo, I think the two witnesses are the Gentile church and the Jewish church, because here's the thing. The whole thing about the two witnesses and all that seems to happen after the rapture of the church, which makes complete and total sense, because after the rapture of the church, the existing church as we know it today, where, you know, the Jewish people are still looking for their Messiah, they're really not into the Christian stuff. There are Jewish believers and they are growing by the numbers right now, but everything is still very veiled as far as there being an open uh, demonstration of something supernatural that now has to be explained, something biblical happening in our time. And so once the rapture happens, and there's going to be so many believers left here who, you know, lowercase b believers, I guess, people who are on the fence who are not on the fence anymore, unfortunately, because they've been left behind. And so that's going to be the Gentile church. Well, then the Jewish church is going to do the same thing. And then I was just like, oh my gosh. Then just thinking like that, there's been Gentiles in the church, you know, the Jewish people kind of broke off, I guess you could say, and started this church, called it the Way, Christianity. It was called the Way. So completely 100%, anybody who was in that was Jewish. Then the Gentiles got incorporated in it, and then they sort of became the face of it. But we've never seen the way that it's described as the two witnesses, meaning the Gentile church in its strength, and the Jewish church in its strength, meaning Jewish believers being together like a Voltron robot of Jesus, is like, that's what it is, y'all. It's not just two dudes. It's not two dudes who haven't died. He's like, my two witnesses, bro. The Gentiles and the Jews. Like, because it's so wonderfully, like, seamlessly biblical. Like, the way that God is still thinking of us in this way. Yes, we're all one, and we're all, you know, the body of Christ. And when you're a Jewish believer, it doesn't make you a Christian. It makes you a Jew. You're a Jew. But the way, so it's like, he's using it all, and it's correct. Like, the two witnesses, right? So I don't know how many believers that is, but that is, you know, now read that passage again, where it's not just like, I mean, as many times as I've read that in Revelation, where I'm trying to picture two dudes like in front of a square, I'm like, and part of the reason why people think that it's Moses and Elijah, or Moses and Enoch, or some biblical thing, is because, aside from the level of the miracles that they're doing, you know, the types of signs and wonders that they're doing, it's the fact that they got to be in the town square. It's like, when do they eat? When do they sleep? It's like, you're thinking that there's some superhuman thing going on, or some super, uh, mega established thing going on. And it's just that it's a bunch of believers doing it collectively. That also makes sense. That makes more sense, honestly. Like, trying to make that two witnesses thing fit was just like, well, we'll see. I don't know. It seems like kind of strange. But having it be Jewish and Gentile believers together doing this, that really has never really been the case on earth. Like, it's always been like an amalgam of sort of Gentiles sort of being peppered in, or Jewish people being peppered into an existing structure. But the idea that they're two witnesses standing on their own, like, I that is what it is. And so they can always be in the square. Somebody's always going to be there. Not just two people holding it down and everybody's just staring at them, not able to touch them. It's like, no, they're going to be the ones doing the miracles. They're going to stop it raining. They're going to be doing, you know, and then another thing that people always say is like, look at the types of miracles that they're doing. It's very, because it's like there's the rivers turning to blood and all this stuff. It's like that's the stuff that Moses did. So it's like Moses' type of miracles. It's like, okay, well, first of all, ain't no Moses' type of miracles. There's God type of miracles that people do. What's Moses going to come and do is his spiel? He's going to do his throwback? Like, what are you talking about? No, it's God miracles that he's going to do through these people, which also makes sense because we're always talking about this move of God that's going to happen. We're always talking about this final revival. And it's like, well, it's not in the word, but I can see how that is going to happen. It doesn't not everything that we do, VCRs didn't make it. Okay, I get it. Not everything's going to be in the word, but it's like, but it was it's like, yeah, that it should probably make the book. Like, that's where it is. Like, it made the book. So I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was thinking about the part where it says that they're going to get, their witness is going to be done and then they're going to be killed. So think about all of these believers killed in the street. And then they're not going to do burial. Everybody's going to celebrate. That makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. Okay. Then imagine 3.5 days, those people collectively get resurrected. And then God says, come up here, and they get raptured up. And then everyone's terrified. Yeah, 2 dudes, Moses and Elijah or whatever, in the square. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody asks their names. Nobody has any questions. They just let them preach for 3.5 years. And then when they die, everybody's like, oh, that's so scary when they get resurrected. No, think about a town full of believers that they just left out there because they just were so happy to see their dead bodies. And they've shut up now finally, and then have them all get raised at one time. That's end time stuff right there. That's an end time sign right there. That's, the rapture's already happened. They came, they said it was aliens, whatever. You can kind of go to bed after that. You can kind of go back to your life after that. Everybody's left on the earth after that. I mean, they're just out of their minds anyways. So they've, 3.5 years gone by, blah, blah, blah. That happens, like, because as things get increasingly more insane, God is going to start doing like more overt things, and that fits it. That's what it is, y'all. The 2 witnesses are the Gentile church in and of itself and the Jewish church in and of itself, because they're the revival, or I don't know, the Vival. I don't know if it's revival, it's the Bible. That's going to happen after the believers get raptured, or after the rapture happens. And then things start ramping up because, evil is going to be out here. It's already out here. The way that we are accustomed to, we're spoiled because the restrainer hasn't been removed yet. So we're just like, it's really dark out here. No. It's going to get increasingly so. And I do honestly think that that the believers, the Gentile church, also might have something to do with it, saying that, the temple's going to get trampled by Gentiles for however many. I think that it's connected somehow. And, I heard a translation that didn't say trampled. It said that they just tread. That basically, like, they were leaving footprints. They were all in through the temple, basically, is what they were saying. The trampling gives the idea that they, like, ruined it or something, that they, they destroyed it with all of their foot traffic or something. I don't know. Just how do you trample? If you trample something over years, it's not like you did it and something happened. So, um, you get trampled. It doesn't take 3.5 years for you to die. You know what I'm saying? Or for something to get destroyed. So, anyways, so yeah, I've been rereading that. Um, and I was like blown away when I read it. And then the 144,000 come right after that. I'm like, yo, what if the 144,000 are even more concentrated group of believers that come from that particular event that's technically also a rapture? And that makes sense why people are having dreams. Some people are saying, yo, I'm seeing multiple raptures. I'm not seeing just one. He's like, that phenomenon, like the multiple raptures thing was like early. Like I remember seeing that in like 2012. And then they kind of tapered off. I haven't seen it in a while. But I do remember it, and I remember thinking, like, I'm not going to discount these just because they don't make any sense. Why are people having dreams about multiple raptures? So that was always in the back of my mind, looking for that puzzle piece to whatever. So anyway, so yeah, I thought that was going to be short, but it wasn't. So there it is. Now I got another video. So yeah, I would consider rereading it, thinking about the two witnesses as just a body of believers in Jerusalem. And they don't we're not talking Americans here. You know what I'm saying? Like, so also that helps to get that out of your head too. It's like we're not talking about white people. They don't have to just Gentiles and Jews. Okay. So yeah. That's it. Bye.